Oh, man, we made it. Now, it's been about 11 years since I've been on Twitch. Right? That's the right amount of time? I think so.
Yeah,
It's been
checks out.
at least a decade. Welcome to PJ and Fatima. Fatima and PJ. I got to get that order right. Sorry, tried to supplant you.
It's
there.
okay.
No,
It's
Fatima and
interchangeable.
PJ. It is interchangeable. We are equal on the show. To be fair, though, as we talked about on the last show, which premiered in 1987, if you remember. On the last show, we talked about how you have so much more experience with open source than I. But this is the show. It's open source. We're talking about contributing to GitLab, which is open core, and you might not know that, and that's why you're here. You're like, I can contribute to GitLab. You're like, yeah, you can do it. We want you to. I'm PJ Metz. I'm the education evangelist here at GitLab on the community relations team. With me, as always, is no, the point went the wrong way. Fatima Collin.
Hi, I'm Fatima. I'm a developer evangelist at GitLab. 11 years ago, I wasn't quite sure what the role entails, but now I understand what I'm working on. So I manage our community platforms and do a lot of engagement and kind of building out some of our community playbooks and rituals. So excited to be here. It's been a while, PJ, since we've been on Twitch and since we've talked about contribution. It's just been so busy. So
it's really been busy. Like
if anyone remembers, hydration is key on this show.
Very important. Hydrate, Fatima.
Yeah, hydration is important.
We're gonna have water breaks on this show where we spend an entire 45 seconds drinking water. That's right.
Earlier when I was filling up this bottle, I was like, I don't know. I think like halfway, I'm gonna be like, I'll be back.
That's right. See ya. I'm putting some background music on because
yeah.
Listen, this is.
Like we haven't done this in a while, and I realized like as soon as the intro music was playing, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to tweet before. I mean, not supposed to, but it's good to tweet that you're going live on Twitch.
I forgot about tweeting this week about the show. I even were looking at my calendar and be like, that's right, I'm streaming Thursday. It's been a while. I'm excited. And like, I totally forgot to like tweet about it and let people know that I'm doing this. So I tweeted literally 30 seconds before we went live. And then I tweeted and I realized I didn't tag a single person. And so I quote tweeted myself and literally just threw like 4 ads up there because we have 2 guests on today's show. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, we're going to have 2 guests on, and it was my fault for not tagging people earlier. I'm really good at social media. I don't know if y'all know this.
I think Mountain Dew doesn't know quite just yet, but...
Mountain Dew definitely doesn't know. Which
I noticed that it's been so long that you don't have a can up there on the shelf anymore.
Yeah, I had to abandon asking Mountain Dew to sponsor me, unfortunately. Now I just tweet about Halloween Horror Nights, and that's what my main account bot does. Countdown, by the way, for those of you following along, I think tomorrow is going to be 2 weeks, so we are 15 days away from Halloween Horror Nights. I know that's why everyone's really here, for Halloween Horror Nights stuff. But no, this show, at its core, what it's about is about contributing. And on the first episode, which, as you may recall, was filmed in 1964, that first episode, we talked about Fatima and Mai's experience with open source, contributing. We talked with Christos Bakrakis, who is our community contribution program manager, and who is amazing. And he talked about what that process looks like. And if you continue to watch this show, as apparently 3 of you are, thank you for tuning in. If you continue to watch the show, we are going to get to a point where Fatima and I actually open up and contribute to GitLab, which will be, other than the handbook stuff that we've done as part of our jobs, it will be our first time contributing to GitLab, the project. Is that true, Fatima, or have you actually done like...
Yeah, that'll be my first time contributing to GitLab. I actually took a look at it. So I'm building out our community newsletter. It's my camera is doing that thing where it pretends that I'm not streaming. Work with me, camera. I'm actually working on our 3rd issue of the community newsletter, which is a joint project between myself and Christos, if everyone remembers him from the last episode. And part of that is a section on like, here's the issues that are open for contributions, or as we call it, the label says accepting merge requests. And, I was like, well, really ambitious. I was like, I'm going to have a section. I'm going to link to some issues. I'm going to have blurbs about what these issues are looking for. And I opened a couple of issues and I like read through them and I was like, this is how I felt like 4 years ago when I looked at a Drupal issue. Like, what language are these people speaking? And so then I was like, you know what? I think the MVP is to link the issues looking for merge requests. And then we'll iterate. Like, maybe the next 5 issues later, I'll be able to like write blurbs. But we'll see.
You said MVC when you were talking. What does MVC mean for the people at home?
I said MVP.
Oh, MVP.
What's an MVC?
Is minimum viable change.
Oh, well, I was thinking MVP, like minimal viable product, but I do like MVC better, minimum viable change.
Yeah, so minimum viable change
is
the literal smallest change you can make that gives you progress. So I had to create a new page in our handbook. And yes, Jellyman, we're muted. Yes, it's been a while. So Jellyman is a very close friend of mine, literally family, literally designed the cartoons at the beginning of the show. They're correct. Feels like I haven't streamed in forever. It's been a hot minute.
1934?
It was 1934 was actually the last time I streamed. Yeah, I remember. Big news back in 1934. There was some bad dude in Europe getting ready to do some terrible stuff. I was almost a history major, so like that date sticks out for me. Anyway, we are minimum viable change. So I had to make a whole new handbook page recently because my team, which is education, we realized that we weren't documenting very well our workflow for conferences that we go to, education conferences. Mm. And so I was like, I got to make this new thing. And there were sections I was making. I was like, all right, I got nothing for this section. So I put the construction emoji and this under construction. And once the page is live, I'm like, yep, that's the MVC. We've got the information that we're ready to talk about right now with a note that lets people know there's more to come. And that's what minimum viable
PJ, I need a link to this handbook page because I am working on a community events handbook page. It sounds like we're doing the same thing, just on mine is like broader. Because I noticed that we had a couple of community events. You were there. There were just like ideas for things that we could continue to build on, like some of the activities we had at our booth at the Scale conference. So I wanted to put that in the handbook as well. So I will add an MVC to your MVC.
Oh, wonderful. You know what is cool about our handbook is that everyone can contribute to it, not just GitLab members. Literally, you listening right now can open up a merge request and you can contribute to our handbook. That's a way to contribute at GitLab.
Yeah.
Nice.
We just had a Beyond Code episode on Tuesday about like the importance of documentation and how having great documentation, but also having a great process for contributing to documentation empowers people to learn things. So if you have that documentation, it's really helpful and great, then people are more likely to use your product or learn from what you're putting together. And so like a tool for empowering people. And like that's been stuck with me like top of mind this week.
Honestly, open docs is one of the best ways to ensure that people use your docs too, because if they can read the process and be like, oh, this didn't work for me, but you know what did, and then submit a merge request for it or a PR, like you can do that. You can edit docs and that allows your community to get really involved. And then guess what? They start talking to other people. They start showing other people how it was. And that's how your community grows.
We didn't talk about this, but are we allowed to do a documentation contribution for this stream? Because of the project categories accepting merge requests, there is one for documentation. So that's just, an option for when we actually get hands-on with GitLab.
No, Fatima, we both have to learn Ruby on Rails before we finally contribute to GitLab. But no,
it's going to be another 2 decades before we get to that episode.
That's right. Did someone It
I
wasn't
think
me.
Siri was trying to tell me the weather in 2 decades. Just
Get
so
out of here,
it's
Siri.
going to be clear.
Lies, Siri.
72 degrees.
That's not the temperature it's going to be in 20 years, Siri. Not in August. So
on this episode, contribution to GitLab, the Heroes Program, and climate change.
Climate change.
Oh,
I am
real.
so excited for this episode because I feel like the last episode was specifically about, like, it was just open up the idea, making sure people know that you can contribute to GitLab, that it is an open core product, that so much of our source code is visible, and that we want you to, like, dive in and help us make GitLab because we started as an open source project in 2011. So we just want people to know that we're still basically doing that. You can contribute. And that first episode, way back in 1901, when we talked about how to contribute and what it looks like, I feel like this episode is the one that made the most sense to do next, because this is about people who have contributed and done so much for GitLab that they are heroes. And
yeah, this is about the contributors that go above and beyond for GitLab without working at GitLab.
That's right.
So
that's right. These are people
that's
who
always
do so
fascinating to me. Like, these are people who are so passionate about a product that they use, whether personally or whether at their current role. But it's not like out of an obligation. So, like, as an evangelist at GitLab, like, I should make GitLab look good. That's a part of my job description. So if I do that enthusiastically, like, a percentage of that is in getting paid to do that. But for someone to do that as a hero, and I know a lot of companies have these heroes program, it's just a very fascinating and admirable thing to do. And I'm excited to hear more about, like, you know, what goes into that, what the challenges might be, but also like how it enriches their lives as well. Because programs like that wouldn't exist if it wasn't like a win-win kind of situation.
Exactly. This is a two-way street. Of course, it benefits GitLab to have people working on it and making it better. But one of the things I try and stress to students when I'm talking to them and to educators is the importance of getting them involved in open source communities and how much it can benefit them. There are so many people who work for tech companies who started out not working for tech companies and just getting involved. It builds skills, it builds community, and it builds connections. It's a type of networking you can do. And it's just, it really is a win-win situation for everyone. So really, let's get into this program and let's talk about what our Heroes program looks like. And to do that, our first guest that we're going to bring on is Jamie Rochelle. Bam! There she is. Jamie is our developer evangelist project manager, and she's on the community relations team. Did I get the title right? I pulled that out of the top of my head.
Kinda. Just one extra word and a little switcheroos going on there. But yes, pretty much I am evangelist program manager. I don't have the developer title attached to my title. However, like Fatima, we're all on the same team for community relations, but I focus on community engagement more so on the meetup program, and I do air quotes for various reasons that might come up in this chat, and also our Heroes Advocacy Program, known as GitLab Heroes.
Yes.
So I am the person behind the scenes trying to make sure that the right workshops or right content gets to the local markets where folks are advocating for free, just because they enjoy the product. So I'm excited to dive in and share more about the Heroes program and how other folks can be a part of it.
Awesome. Yeah, and first off, again, so excited to have you here. This is my second time I've been on a stream with Jamie. The first time was for a Meet the Tanukis episode, where we learned all about her past and how she got to where she is. Previously, she was working organizing events and stuff for Google, right?
Yes, so I was on the DevRel events team for Google Cloud before I joined GitLab, and that was a very interesting role because I was focusing on Kubernetes events, so all things KubeCons or Google meetups and whatnot. But I was on the event side, so all the big events and presence that we had, I was doing those as well as the local meetups. So it was a very interesting dynamic, having to do very small 50 people events and then dive into a huge event like KubeCon. But I learned a lot about the open source community with my first role in tech, which is at Docker. I had no idea what a container was or any of that language. And that was about, looking back, it was almost 5 years ago that I've been in the open source space. And I'm still forever learning because the environment is forever changing, right? But yeah, that's interesting. 5 years.
Those times when you kind of talk about something you're past being like, oh yeah, that was, oh my gosh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. I was calculating like, oh wow, that was like, 5 years. So yeah, pretty awesome companies though. Docker, Google Cloud, and now here at GitLab. So it's been great. It's been a fun journey.
That's a really solid resume, actually. I'm really into
it.
Top notch.
I mean, we don't want you to leave or anything, but
don't update your resume.
Of expertise.
Yeah. So when we're talking about heroes, and you use the full name, the GitLab Hero Advocacy or GitLab Advocacy Heroes. What's the order of that one?
So the title of our program is just GitLab Heroes, but when I say that, it leaves a lot of it, like folks could interpret it the way they want. So when I do my pitch, if we're at conferences or talking to other people in coffee chats, I say it's an advocacy program because it's the folks that are in the wider community that are advocating for GitLab on their own, right? So I'm basically the person that's empowering them and giving them the tools that they need so that they feel supported and connected to us. Yes, we are a remote company, but we have to make sure that our community always feels connected to us in various ways, i.e., we have Beyond Code series, we have the series that y'all have started that is great. So we have all these different ways to make sure that we connect in casual ways, right? Everything sometimes seems very formal, and sometimes that's not what the wider community really needs to connect with each of us, because we all are evangelists, right? So sometimes it's like, hey, we're human outside of the worlds that we're at. So I think this gives people a glimpse into our worlds, and that we're here to we champion for GitLab as well, but we have a whole community that is right behind us.
Yeah, the idea of a community that is advocating because they like the product and because they like what it is I feel like at this point, and we joined GitLab right around the same time, Jamie, it feels like an important part of the GitLab experience is that we know that community exists, and we want to make sure they continue to like us. And so that's our whole team's deal. And Fatima, you told us last week about Drupal, that you started out with Drupal as just kind of like, you were new at it, but you became this super fan, and then started doing real work and making real PRs and stuff with them, right?
Yeah, I used to get asked by some of the companies, the agencies that are in the Drupal space, to be a hero at some of their organizations, but there was always a conflict of interest because I'd be working at a competitor. So a lot of times, when I joined my last company, they were like, if you hadn't applied, we were going to reach out to you. And I was like, I know, I can't commit to the amount of work and commitment that it takes to be a hero. And so I really admire heroes in general, because I think a lot of the when you're doing open source contributions, if there's no commitment, so if you're not a maintainer, or if you're not a core team lead or something like that, your activity can go like this, right? Based on your life. If it's snow day for 3 weeks, I'll do a lot of contributions. And then if the weather's nice, I'm going to go out again. And so when you have programs like that, I think it requires a level of consistency in order to continue to be engaged. And I just wasn't able to get that balance in my life. And so, yeah, but I admire it, because I think it takes a lot of enthusiasm and commitment to be able to be a part of a program like that. Yeah.
So Jamie, for the Heroes Program, is this something that, we lost Jamie! No!
Oh, no!
Oh, Jamie. So Jamie will join us again in 1 second. The internet is a series of tubes, and sometimes those tubes get attacked by beavers. And that's just how life is.
Okay.
I can't wait for the end of this series when I go through every stream video.
Hopefully
and
we
capture
don't have
just
any
you
Canadians.
and me, just you and me laughing, and we're just gonna have a super cut because you and I have loud laughs, and that's
yes, we do.
Good.
I mean, I'm not even at prime distance when I laugh.
So while Jamie's gone,
very close laugh.
we are going to keep talking about heroes, and the way I'm going to do this is we have a website for our heroes, and we put it in the chat earlier. Now it's on the screen. About.gitlab.com, which is our marketing website, /community/heroes. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen a little bit here.
Oh, cool. One of the things I was going to ask Jamie before she disappeared into the internet void was like how many heroes we have, but I can look that up while you're sharing your screen.
We have 700,462 heroes, I think is the number. No. Jamie is back.
There, when you said 700, I was like, oh, yeah, I believe that.
762,272 heroes.
Please don't quote us on Twitter.
This is not accurate, please. Jamie's back. I'm gonna bring her in 1 second. She showed up in backstage. I want to give her time with her camera just in case.
Looks like we have 106 heroes at this time published on the heroes page. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Very cool. Some of them are what we call core team members. I'll ask Jamie to explain that when she's ready.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about the core team as well, for sure. So yeah, this is the heroes page, and I'm gonna bring Jamie in. She might be audio only right now. Let's see how this goes. Hi, Jamie.
Welcome back.
Hello. I am not sure what's going on, but I told you we have storms galore coming through Georgia. So I'm not sure what's happening. Everything like completely dropped out. So unfortunately, you won't be able to see my smile right now, but I am here and present.
Perfect. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. This is something
I literally just did the same thing with my hands under my chin, and you
I'll be your like ventriloquist virtual dummy. Just let me know, like give me the cues.
That's amazing. Okay, so sorry for your technical troubles. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry for your technical troubles. That is rough. I have that happen all the time. I have some rain right now too, so I know Jamie, you and I are in the same. We're in the southeastern United States. Yes. It just rains here in the summer. That's what it does. And so if I drop out, y'all will be fine. But if I come back, I'll hopefully be able to come back. That'll be hilarious. All right, so we are looking at the Heroes website. Jamie, is that cool with you if we look at the Heroes website together?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So here we are building GitLab together, and I do love that right here. It's like immediately become a hero, like that's available. First thing you see.
I kind of want to click it and see what happens.
And John Coughlin, who is our developer evangelist manager, he helped revamp this website to make it a lot easier for folks to find information and be able to apply. It's awesome. Really easy. You just click that button and it takes you to a different direct email form so you can apply to the program.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's mail too. Yeah. Yes. I'm looking at the link on the bottom that shows up when you hover, which is a great way to avoid clicking on spam. For those of you who don't know, hover and see what it's pointing to. So yeah, this is based on our belief that everyone can contribute, and like I love that. That's one of the first things I ever heard at GitLab. Everyone can contribute, and I realized they really mean it, you know. And so in that spirit, everyone can become a GitLab hero. So we were talking about the number of heroes earlier. Jamie, Fatima said 106.
So currently it reads at it's 106. It's actually probably about 82. I've done some cleaning of the house, so to speak, where there were some folks that haven't been as active due to the pandemic and just not having the bandwidth and you know, just life happening. Some folks have stepped down, so we created a GitLab alumni group. So folks are still able to be connected to the community. They won't lose. A lot of people add this to their resume as like, you know, a great attribute. So we didn't want to completely take away that they were a GitLab hero. So we are going to be creating a whole new tab and everything similar to the core group, where it'll show that folks were contributing to the program and now they're part of the alumni group.
Awesome. So this third paragraph. Currently. This third paragraph is how you can become a hero. So there's a couple different ways, and I feel like when I thought about it, I thought it was like, so you got to be like a Rails developer, you got to like write code, and you got to make a lot of MRs. But it looks like there's actually a couple of ways to become a GitLab hero.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, PJ, there's our, our saying, everyone can contribute, which we also stand behind. But when you contribute to become a hero, like to qualify, there's various ways, right? Like you said, you don't necessarily have to write code. Some folks just go and speak on our behalf and do workshops. They don't necessarily always do an MR. But to qualify, we want to make sure that folks are contributing to the GitLab project. So when people are applying, it asks a slew of questions. And one of those questions is, how are you contributing? And I ask folks, what is your latest contribution? If they haven't spoken directly about GitLab, but they talk about open source or different things of that nature, I tell them like, hey, as soon as you do a talk, you qualify, right? Or as soon as you decide to organize a meetup or a workshop on our behalf, like come back to us and we'll reassess your application. But it's down to, if you write code and do a lot of contributions, you become a superhero. So there's 3 tiers. There's contributor, there's our regular hero level, and then super contributor. So the super contributors are the ones that are actively contributing to like the GitLab project and going above and beyond. See, there it is. So as you're just scrolling, you can kind of see that the superhero is pretty intense. And there's a lot of superheroes out there who actually have become part of our core team, which I don't work on the core team. That's our friend Christos, who leads that program. But those are folks that are actively advocating and very connected to what we do here at GitLab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the core team is a really, really cool thing that we have, where they have almost as much access as employees do. They're essentially like the super users, like not just superheroes, but like really, really contributing a lot. And having tiers for this kind of thing makes a lot of sense, because like you want to be able to level up, you want to be able to do things. So it's being a contributor is the first level, like you said. Being a hero, and then a superhero, and superhero can serve on the core team as well, which is not you, that's Christos. Nice.
Right. And the other thing that's really cool about the program is that we have folks in place like Abu Bakr, who helps lead like CFPs. So if folks are interested, in wanting to do a talk at a conference or some things that are coming up, we have people embedded on our team that help drive some of these items. So if you want to do a blog post, I have blog series that I help with, and I have folks like Fatima or Michael who are willing to jump in and do some of the technical review, right? So if folks have even just the idea and want to talk about something that we just aren't, and they're just not sure how to go about it or the tools, we have all these different cool folks that are in place that are super helpful and resourceful to make sure that we give them what they need to, go forward with writing a blog. And our blog team is awesome. They're looking for content all the time, so it's really easy to kind of quarterback those things and get them published as well.
That's great. Oh, this is a nice, clean little website too. So let's talk about the rewards that you get. Like, what do you get for being a hero?
Well, once you become a GitLab hero, there's some pretty cool rewards that include, like we have an upcoming GitLab commit. We're also going to be hosting a Heroes Summit. It's the first ever. And the only thing with this one that's coming up, it'll be in London. So it'll be myself, John, and Christos will be present. I won't spill the beans quite yet on the agenda, but we have some pretty cool things that we're working on. And then we support travel for certain events. They get a GitLab Ultimate license. There's some cool swag. So folks who are listening who are part of the program and have been messaging me, I am in the works of getting some cool new stuff designed. As you see, our Tanuki got a lift. So there'll be some cool things going on that I can't wait to share with folks, so you can get those orders in. And then we have like community hours and all these different things like I talked about, as far as like different folks on the team assisting with different elements on how people can contribute. So they have access to all of that, right? And a lot of folks in the wider community who might not be a hero aren't able to take advantage of some of those programs.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I love it. So when we're talking about Heroes Program, Jamie, how much of a hand did you have in in building it, because again, we came on just about the same time. I think you were about 2 months before I came on. You were hired, maybe a little more, like
Yeah,
4
I
months.
think it might have been like 2 or 3 because I think we shared a lot of the same sentiments on like the onboarding process and all that good jazz that comes
You
with
were like,
Right.
So many documents.
but it's also it's nice that there's a lot of documents, because like it's all there, but it's
Yes,
overwhelming because you're like, wow, there's so much.
right. Yeah, my
But
keyword for onboarding was unlearning. Unlearn what you knew before
oh
to
yeah,
take it.
absolutely. But so
Um,
what direction did you take the Heroes? Was it something you were just kind of handed? Is it something you knew you were going to get coming in? Like, what did that process look like?
So, John is the person who actually created the program from scratch. The GitLab Heroes Program did not exist until about, I want to say, 2.5 years ago. So, John is the person who spearheaded and established all the wonderful documentation and the handbook pages and all the good stuff in getting the Heroes program ramped up. I started February of 2021. So I knew even through the interview process that they were looking for somebody to lead the programs I manage, including the Heroes program, meetups, and other engagement elements. So I would say somewhat handed off because John definitely still assists me with a lot of different things, as you can only imagine, trying to get to know 106 heroes during a pandemic phase, trying to stay connected and all of those things, and getting creative with like, the virtual meetup space is very full of
Especially on like
nuances
year
and
3 when everyone's tired
yeah,
of
so
Zoom meetings. Yeah.
yeah, so we collectively have come up with different ideas and how to keep folks engaged, but it pretty much was more of a handoff. But I'm forever thankful that he is still right there in my corner helping with some of the things that we do because he did start it off. So
Awesome. It feels like, so the two programs, the meetups program, where your job, you've explained before, is enabling people to host meetups. Really, it's not just, oh, it's a GitLab meetup and I'm here and I'm running it. You want to empower the community to do it on their own as well, right?
yes, absolutely. So one of the things that GitLab meetup organizers can also be, as we saw, can also be heroes, right? So we have some pretty awesome organizers who, like we said before, they're volunteering their time to create some great events and finding speakers and providing workshops and stuff. So what I tried to do, I've done it 3 times so far, is create a virtual meetup in a box where I provide from backgrounds to virtual backgrounds for Zoom. I've provided content prompts, speakers, decks, all this good jazz so that folks can literally just plug and play, and makes it really easy for them and take some of the stress that comes with being a meetup organizer.
Yeah.
But we recognize that right now, we got to get a little creative. And so there'll be some things we'll be able to talk about soon about Christos and I partnering together and trying to do some like meetup networking coupled with maybe a hackathon or different things of that nature, because we recognize the climate of our community is changing. And we got to make sure that we're staying, as things are moving, we got to stay connected with the community and change with them as well, right? So programs are forever changing. I'm sure, Fatima, you know what that feels like, and PJ as well. Like, as we're getting into different zones and talking to our audience, there's always something changing. We got to be quick to the draw to be creative and figure out ways to get folks to stay engaged. And it's a global program too. And then there's like, so it's global. There's different languages, and my Latin market is one of my most active. And I also have a lot of GitLab teammates that help organize, right? So when we're on Meetup, you'll probably see 6 or 7 Latin America cities that are cross-promoting, which is really cool. And it's in the Spanish language. And that's one of the things that I want to promote, right? Like, yes, we're GitLab and we lead with English. We have all these, amazing programs, but we want to make sure the program is inclusive. And that's one of the things that I want to deliver, that I don't want people to feel like, oh, we have to host in the English language, and that's been going over very well with the Heroes program and coupling it with the Meetup program as well.
Yeah, it's always nicer and always a bit easier to participate when it's in your first language, you know.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
A lot of the certainly like contributing and a lot of the work that comes with, for instance, like writing code, like you know, there are different like translations and stuff, but like that's one thing. Communicating with each other, talking about what to do, instructions, docs, etc., etc. Did you guys just hear that thunder?
I did.
Yeah, that sounded like a drum roll.
Right.
Welcome to Florida, y'all. Yeah, all of that stuff, enabling people to do it in their own language is such a great opportunity. And I remember when you were partnering with people, we have a TMRG team member resource group at GitLab called Latinx, and you were partnering with people from that to make this Spanish language meetup happen. And as a Latino, I was very happy to see it. So thank you very much for helping organize that, Jamie.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I definitely, my passion for the programs that I do manage is to build diversity and inclusion efforts and goals in all the programs and see the expansion. Like the one thing with the Heroes that I admire the passion that we have. However, I want to see more women. I want to see more people of color, you know, and I know they exist in our community, right? I just don't know where they're hiding per se, but I want to find them and empower them and, you know, let them know like, hey, we're here for you. And being a hero is something that, you know, it's a badge of honor. And I feel like there's, you know, more badges to hand out. So I'm looking forward to diversifying the program.
All right. Oh, Jamie, thank you so much for all of this information. You're still going to be here. I'm not like kicking you out or anything. But our second guest is here. And I'm very excited for our second guest. And like, I just realized I've actually met all the people that are going to be on this show tonight in person, despite working for a remote company. Because Fatima and Jamie,
I haven't met Lee.
We met in LA before. I was able to meet our next guest in person because I happened to be in London. And speaking of being a global company, speaking of being all over the place, I would love for you all to please welcome GitLab hero Lee Tickett. Yay.
Hello. How are we all doing?
You made it. The bot.
I'll try not to be too
In 1984, we joked about how Lee Tickett is such a great superhero that people mistake him on the forums as a bot.
Yes, this is true.
I have some stiff competition. I have stiff competition these days. Yeah, and it was a pleasure. I think you're possibly the only GitLab team member I've had the pleasure of meeting face to face, PJ.
Yes! Boom! Hold on, I'm taking a victory lap. Yes!
But with
victory lap over.
With Commit, hopefully we'll get to meet some more soon.
Yes,
absolutely. You'll get to
Lee,
meet Jamie.
Please. Yes, I can't wait to meet a lot of
my gosh, wait.
Yes.
Fatima and Jamie, you guys are going to be at Commit London.
I'm not.
I'll be there. I don't know if Fatima's running, but I will be there with bells and whistles and all kinds of
These two will be there.
I may even sneak to Commit New York as well.
Ooh.
Sneaky plans.
This might be the year that we all meet Lee Tickett then.
That's right.
Proof that I am not a bot, right?
All right, Lee, I would love for you to tell us more about yourself and give us your history, your back, how you got here. Go ahead, take it away, Lee. Tell us all about yourself.
I'll start, but I'll get you to probe me to some extent to keep me on track, because having met me, you know how I like to go off on a tangent. So, I haven't got dates, but we probably started about 4 or 5 years ago, moving from Subversion to Git. And it sucks that I can't remember why I chose GitLab. One day I will remember what it was, that whether it was a complete fluke, a Facebook ad that just got me in, but for one reason or other chose GitLab. Might have even been the self-hosted option that maybe won me over. But we were doing really basic version control. really basic version control. We weren't branching or anything in subversions, so we kind of moved over to GitLab and we started doing a bit of branching, then started to kind of use merge requests and started to put some kind of approval processes in place and merge request templates. This was all kind of a bit of a transitional phase where the company was growing. We were going from kind of like 5 people to 10 people, and you kind of start hitting those issues that where you've got a few people on the team, it's really easy for everyone to communicate and know what you're doing and follow the same processes. But then when you're getting that little bit bigger, it's, you start to, not everyone knows what everyone else is doing, and people start doing things in different ways. So to try and kind of keep that consistency, we needed to start putting these kind of systems and processes and documentation, all that kind of thing in. So
your decision, like you said, you don't know why, but you chose, and it's really you chose, and then you started to get to know the product, and as you were growing, you discovered more useful things.
So yeah, we'll go over a few more of those bits, but it sucks that I didn't find GitLab many years ago, like earlier than that, because I've mentioned to a few people there was a startup. I was actually at Commit London 2019, I think it was, and there was a startup that did a presentation where they were kind of the GitLab using GitLab. They do their onboarding in GitLab, their documentation, their handbook, that everything is sort of revolves around GitLab. And I was like, I would love it if I was a startup and I could do that, but it's so much harder transitioning from all these existing systems and legacy processes. But I'm glad that at least they did choose the right tool and didn't, spend 3 or 4 years going down some other route with, this system and that system and plugging them all in and then realizing that I've made a mistake.
So you started using it with your company. You said you were growing, you were making these transitions and changes, but you were happy with it. How do we get from, okay, I'm using it, to when did you start contributing to it, and why did you decide to do that?
So I think I saw something about a hackathon, and I think that's what there was a bit of a realization, because I hold my hands up. I confess that I didn't appreciate open source. I didn't really understand. I think I've actually started to, when I interview people to join my company, I've started to ask them a question about what do you know about open source? What is open source? Have you contributed to open source? And I think that's really important and really interesting, albeit that I can't penalize them too much, because 3-4 years ago I didn't really know the answer or understand, and I still don't kind of don't make out to be the master and know all of open source. But it's gone from me just thinking that open source meant it's free to kind of, oh, hang on a minute. So that was the sudden light bulb moment, when all of a sudden, from creating kind of add-ons, plugins, API calls and bits and pieces that you could kind of bolt into the system, something went, hey, actually, other people might want what we want, and we might be able to push this into the core product, so that we don't need to use this kind of bolt-on C# web app that we've built that talks to GitLab using the APIs and webhooks. We might be able to do it inside the tool. So I think hackathon was a bit of a turning moment, and then trying to find issues that I understood and could work on. Slowly, that sort of is a really natural way to learn the product, rather than just being like, right, I've got this. I'm sure somebody said before, if you were to print off the GitLab docs, it's like, I don't know, 800 pages or something like that. But rather than me just trying to read through and kind of say, oh, I'm going to learn GitLab, it was, this looks interesting. Oh, okay. Well, we're using this product called Maven or Nexus, which hosts Maven packages. Oh, GitLab can also be a Maven package repository. Well, let's let's ditch this system. And sorry, go on, Fatima.
Yeah, no, sorry. I had a question about something you were saying earlier. So, like, you started with a hackathon and you started to find issues to contribute to. Like, when did it change from contributing to issues to becoming a hero? Like, what was that? Like, how long did that take?
That's a good question. I think it probably took quite a while, because I maybe went slightly backwards in the process, where I joined the core team first and then kind of became a hero, or maybe inadvertently became a hero. So, you know, obviously that was quite a few years ago, and a lot has happened in the last few years to try and kind of publicize, but you know, we've still got a lot of work to do to really kind of spread the word. So yeah, I think it was maybe a year or so of continuing to contribute, not just in the hackathons, but kind of lurking on the forums and the Gitter channels, and just kind of trying to help out where I'd, you know, reciprocating essentially, where somebody had helped me out, especially the GitLab team. You know, every time I pushed a merge request up, the feedback that I was getting, I was able to kind of say, oh, you know what, I can actually apply that to what we're doing in the workplace. Like the, you know, certain things that bigger companies, or if you've gone through certain transitions or education, maybe come naturally, where you go, when you find a bug, you know, don't just fix the bug, but write a test. That test fails,
fix the bug,
and then you will ensure you don't reintroduce that bug and a regression. So there was so many things that constantly the GitLab team were teaching me, not because they were, you know, deliberately trying to teach me stuff to take back to the workplace, but because in order for me to contribute, and the quality of my contributions, and you know, the standard review process, which is applicable to any team member or community contributor, that was it. It was educational. So
I think I read that in one of the blog posts that you wrote about your experience being a contributor and core team member and hero as well. And so one of the things that I think would be great for our viewers to hear is, like, you've been doing this for a while and you still continue to contribute. Like, what benefits would you say heroes can get as being part of the program, like for their own careers or for their own, like you're saying, like learning to do code reviews and things like that? Like, what are the, you know, what are things that the heroes get out of the program that would be a win for them?
I think that it's going to be hard for me to pick out, because just contributing full stop gets you a lot of these benefits, but I guess that amplified, and the kind of invitations you start to receive, and there's also, I'm sure, some top secret stuff in the works at the moment, so I'm sure that somebody will be announcing, unless it maybe already is public, but yeah, there's a lot of time and effort going into that at the moment. I'm sure you know that the kind of community teams, and there's a lot of them, right? It's not just a community team with the developer Evangelist team, and you know, you got education and open source program and contributor success and code contributor program. There's so many of them, but this kind of pipe dream goal, whatever you want to call it, of building the number of community contributors up, there's this realization of what we need to do in order to achieve that. And even that's, you know, cool and crazy for me to always refer to it as we now, because I feel such a part of, you know, been getting involved for so long. But I think it is the kind of invitations to the event, there's no kind of expectation, if you know what I mean, and at the same time, you know, what we do is appreciated, and I can just as easily ping a team member and say, hey, I'm trying to do this thing at work, have you got 5 minutes? And they'll be more than happy to help out. And I know the same sort of thing would apply definitely if there's graduates or people at school or anyone that's kind of interested, then it will just happen naturally. You don't have to kind of go crazy trying to force it to happen. You'll get talking to people.
Yeah, the opposite of good things would be like, what are some of the challenges that you've faced doing some of that? So it sounds like there are a lot of good things. You can get tapped for events. You have access to some of the GitLab team members. You're learning from some of those contributions. Like, what's hard about being a contributor to such a big project? Like, I haven't contributed yet, so I'm curious to hear that.
I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is that we are all different and we do all have slightly different approaches, and I want to say that, you know, programming isn't black and white. There is no right and wrong way to do anything. So occasionally, you know, you'll get an issue that looks like it's all fleshed out, ready to go. You spend some time, build it all out, test it. Yeah, it's great. And then, you know, maybe it needs 8 reviews because it needs back-end reviews, front-end reviews, database reviews, user experience reviews.
That's going to take a while.
Well, again, the team are really quick, but you know, I've had experiences where we've got like 7 approvals. You come to the 8th, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually, you know, there's some challenges with the UX, and then you kind of have to really go back to the drawing board. It doesn't happen often, and there's a huge effort to change the way that the labels are used to invite community contributors to issues. I think there's a number around the sort of 20,000 issues that are currently flagged.
Oh my gosh, we did talk about that earlier. So I'm writing the newsletter issue, the 3rd newsletter that'll come out hopefully next week. Don't quote me. But I was looking at the accepting merge request label on GitLab.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like have a link to issues that are accepting merge requests and also labeled as good first issue, like good for first contributor. But some of them were labeled almost more than a year ago. And so scrolling through those issues, I was like, well, this one may not be ready for a contribution at this
stage. So there's a newer label that's better to use to look for, called Seeking Community Contribution. And that there's even the bot kicks you to say, oh, you haven't put an implementation plan on this issue, but you've labeled it as seeking a community contribution. It would be appreciated if you could flesh out the implementation plan. So the idea is that you go that extra sort of mile to not just say, oh, you know, this doesn't work, or we want this, or whatever, but you actually flesh out the details.
Here's what we need you to do.
Maybe some designs and all of that sort of thing. So I want to say, I'm probably not going to get it bang on, but the accepting merge requests label is more to just say, hey, if you want to work on this, feel free. It's not saying that it's ready. It might be the way that you will sort of contribute and start looking at it is to ping a few product managers and say, hey, I'm interested in working on this. These are my ideas, or how can I move this forward? Or so, you know, I've been known to do that.
It's a lot more collaborative when it's when you see accepting merge requests. That means accepting collaboration, communication, putting together a plan.
Exactly. And if you were to dig into the bot which labels, so they automatically get labeled as accepting merge request, you would understand a bit more what it means, because it's essentially any issue that isn't assigned to anyone. So as soon as something gets assigned, it's no longer accepting merge requests because it's assumed that somebody is actively working on it. Exactly. And there's a few other kind of labels like workflow, planning breakdown, and that sort of thing that will prevent it from being labeled as accepting merge requests. So I think it's an okay label to sort of dive in if you really just want to go head first, find some issues. But I would encourage anyone that's looking at those issues to really kind of understand and ask questions before coding. You know, is this still necessary? Has you know, I went through a period when I was really new and not very good at Ruby or Vue, of kind of almost being, let's call me triage bot. I was focusing on old issues and popular issues. So you can sort the issues list by popularity and by age. And I was looking at the old ones and the popular ones and going in and having a look. And there was a lot of them that were a bug. So I'd say, well, let's see if I can still recreate that bug. Right. Oh no, it looks like that's been fixed. So I'd then ping a team member and say, do you want to close this issue? I think it's now fixed.
Nice.
So that's the sort of thing that I would love to us to encourage more people. And I know you touched earlier on that contributing is not just about code. And I'm quite passionate, although
pathways.
I think that that's where I see so much crossover in the different teams. You know,
I think this is another blog post for you.
That's right. You got to write
different pathways to contributing to GitLab. Number 1, looking at old issues, testing if the bugs still exist. Number 2, maybe like updating documentation that's out of date. Like, I think the personas or pathways is something that we should put together.
There's so many.
There's something you said about like your process when you were like, oh, I started a merge request and someone worked with me and someone walked me through it, and they were like, you know, it was code contributors have people to do that. Like, it's a code review. They don't just go, oh yeah, Lee said he fixed it, so I just merged it and it's fine. There's a process for it. And I think what you just said as well about the community contributors accepting community contributions label, at the bot will be like, hey, make sure you have a plan in the issue that you've included that. I love that this is the way we're working with contributors, that we're saying, hey, we want you to contribute, but we're not looking to just be like, yeah, there's the issues. Here's a shovel, get to work. It's, hey, here's the issues. We're not only going to make sure that you're supported through this, we want to make sure that you have everything you need and that we are giving you the path. So a lot of people, when they think about contributing to open source or they think about contributing to GitLab, they go, well, I'm not good enough. And it's like, but you don't have to be good enough. You have to be willing to come and take the steps that are, and now as we're making changes to these projects, that the steps that help you along are there for you. So even if you're new, even if you're not great, and even Lee, you said it yourself, you're like, I wasn't the best at, I wasn't the best at Vue and I wasn't the best at Ruby. That's fine. You weren't an expert and then you started contributing. You started contributing and it helped build expertise. And I think that's the pathway that I want to focus on when I talk to contributors. I love that you brought all those things up, Lee, in your talk. That was fantastic.
It's almost like I planned it, right?
Hey! There's someone behind Lee's camera with like cue cards written down.
Teleprompter. Yeah, absolutely.
One of your kids just standing there like flipping the cards for you.
Good job, Dad.
Like, oh no, Dad, I skipped one.
No, you know my kids. They'd rather take me to the pub. So.
I did see that post the other day on the Slack channel.
So, have you got a few more minutes? There's a few more little bits and pieces. Yeah.
Tell me some more pieces for sure. Tell me. Yeah. Tell us.
Awesome. So the next kind of big thing. So we talked about how as I was contributing, looking at issues, starting to learn the software, I was slowly saying, hey, we can use the package repository. We don't need this NuGet thing anymore. We don't need this Maven Nexus thing anymore. And slowly kind of getting rid of our systems. And the beauty of it was that it wasn't just getting rid of these disconnected systems that we had to maintain the servers and the, all the other stuff that comes with it. So we are kind of moving everything across. The next one I think was SharePoint. So our intranet, we moved over to GitLab Pages.
I haven't heard that word.
Oh yeah, it should probably be a curse word, right?
That one should have come with a warning, Lee. This kid's crawling. All right, continue.
And that again was it's like, well, I don't like SharePoint. There's probably a few reasons. Like I kind of know some of them; they're a little bit tangible. Some I don't really know. But then, obviously, working on the GitLab docs and other bits and pieces, it's like, well, you use Nanoc or whatever basically GitLab pages with a static site generator, and it means that any docs changes, additions, whatever you want to call it, go through the MR process. And it's like, well, that's what I want. That's what I want. Anytime we're making changes or documenting our processes or whatever we're doing, I want it to go through exactly the same workflow that a code contribution goes through. The team get to review it, have their say, they can make suggestions, blah blah blah, and you can push it, gets merged into master, gets deployed automatically, and there's that full history there, and so on and so forth. So we're getting close now. CI/CD was kind of coming along, SharePoint, Maven, Nexus. So the big next step to get rid of one of our kind of long lost, not many systems left now, is to get our kind of help desk and support system across.
Ooh, okay.
So there's some fairly big gaps, or were some fairly big gaps, and I had conversations maybe like 18 months, a year ago with the plan product manager, and again, that's what's amazing. The GitLab team always happy to coffee chat, tap them up, and you got ideas or whatever it might be. And I said, look, in order to migrate, to move off of this system, we need I'm going to call it a CRM. I don't know if that's quite the right term, but we need a way of attaching issues to customers, to companies and clients, and doing the billing and all that kind of stuff. So the last year or so, I've been building out this CRM feature from the ground up, and we're almost there. I keep every week I'm like, next month we will be able to migrate off of what we've got at the moment, and then you find another little bit and you're like, okay, I kind of want that to ship first.
Well, maybe, yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of like the big feature that has been taking up a lot of time, but it's nice that most of that has now shipped. And it's all about finding other people that can start to use that, and hopefully other people that want to contribute to that as well, because I don't like the fact that I've kind of dreamt a lot of it up, and I worry that I've kind of not backed us into a corner, but it maybe works a little bit how I want it to work, and I hope that other people will be able to leverage that.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, I'm just so
That's
happy
awesome.
right now.
I'm hoping that comes in instead of. Hopefully that'll ship soon. Hopefully the next time we have this
I'll
session
definitely,
in 2
because
years.
you mentioned the blog post, so I've done 2 so far, and they do cover a lot of this kind of journey. And I'm fairly sure I will force someone's hand to let me do a third when once I actually manage to migrate that help desk off, and that will definitely
Jamie's
be a real...
here on the call and can
That's
give
right. Jamie, it's time to
her
take the pitch
approval.
and say yes.
Was that a plug there, Fatima?
I was signing you up like Hunger Games style for a 3rd blog post from Lee once some of these changes ship and he has updates.
Always welcoming to Lee's contribution, so I would definitely look forward to it.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Jamie, while we've got you, which we've had you this whole time, but I wanted to ask you, I think it's time for us to start wrapping up the show. I just want to ask you about maybe final words, advice. Tell us what you want to see from people who watch today's show.
I think the takeaway that I would want folks to walk away from is, if you're already advocating for GitLab and have been doing things that I'm just not aware of, apply to the program. Message me on Twitter at It's Miss Me. Reach out to us. I'm literally here for the wider community at GitLab. So if there's things that I just don't know exist, don't hesitate. Reach out. Like I said, we're looking to grow and diversify the Heroes Program. We're always looking for folks locally and, host a meetup or engagement or a hackathon or anything that you could really think of. There's so many creative ways to connect with people. So I'm here to chat. Always looking forward to meeting folks, coffee chats and whatnot. So
heck yes, I love it. And then Lee, parting words, final thoughts. I'm just so excited to get to see you again. My time that I spent with you at a pub in London was great.
Wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
Same again.
Clearly wasn't enough.
It's just that kind of that, everyone really can contribute, and everyone on our side, because we're all in this together, is there to help. I've been doing community pairing sessions every week for the last 3 months, maybe now. And anyone's welcome to join those, whether you're brand new and you want to drive and you want us to kind of help you understand things, or whether you just want to watch us to see how our brains work and our rubber ducking process. But yeah, just get involved, and there's so many ways of getting in touch with us. So
awesome. And Fatima, that's
that's
episode 2. Think about,
it feels like we cover so much in these episodes, like they're like volumes, not episodes. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting closer and closer to like the actual contribution. Like my fingers are starting to tingle, and I know I might regret that when we're like really into it. But I'm excited to look forward to that, and I learned a lot today about different ways that the programs are changing and working, and I know which labels to use in the community newsletter, and I'm feeling very heartwarmed by Lee's story and Jamie's plans for growing the program. So yeah.
Yes, this episode actually went a long way in alleviating some of my stress about eventually having to contribute, especially hearing how active GitLab is in helping, making sure that the contribution goes through, because they want the contribution to go through. They want it to happen, And way back when we filmed that first episode in 1849, I really feel like we've come a long way myself in just understanding how this contribution process is going to work. And I hope it's been as valuable for other people too. So that's a wrap on episode 2 of Contributing with Fatima and PJ. And I want to thank you, Lee, so much for taking time. I know it's late over there in the UK. I'm glad you were able to have Estella during this, because I can't wait to have Estella today myself. Jamie, thank you as well. And Jamie, for dealing with the technical difficulty of a thunderstorm, knocking your power out momentarily and coming back. And Fatima, for being the best host of all time. This is amazing.
Yes,
always a pleasure.
Always nice, right? We will see y'all next time. Stay tuned to at Metzing Around, my Twitter account, at Sugarflow, at It's Miss Me, and Lee Tickett is at Lee Tickett as well. Stay tuned to Twitter. You will see when our next episode is coming up. I promise I'll actually promote it this time. But Fatima and I are actually going to start working on the process of what contribution looks like next time. So we'll catch y'all later.
I think the next time we show up, it might be like a time travel.
Adios, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Bye.